Welcome back to Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. What I've liked, Tom, I'm going to rant here a little bit. What I've liked, Tom, over the last 5 years or so is Major League Baseball making such a big deal about the first-year player draft. The lottery being held during the winter meetings. It's a must-be-at event. I have been there. I've also been to the draft several times now in Los Angeles and in Texas. During the All-Star game, they've been amazing. They've had them at night. It's a standalone event. Tom, for the life of me, I don't understand this one at all. Saturday in the afternoon, good by NBC and Peacock to get the rights of this, but it was on like 3 different places, and the games are going on in the middle of the day. I feel like what happened here, Tom? It feels like they went from trying to make this draft amazing to saying, bleep it, we don't care anymore. Very weird for me, man. Very weird. And again, when players get drafted, I understand it's different and the players aren't showing up because they're young and they don't know if they're going to sign or not, and I get it. I love the draft, and I love the fact that we were able to just watch that on Sunday night or whenever they had it. And now I feel like people don't even know that the draft happened yesterday, Tom. What's going on here?
Yeah, it was not great to say the least. And to your point, I think it should be handled one of two ways, or it should be on Sunday night because there's no Sunday night baseball, right? All the games end at a certain time. We should have a standalone on Sunday night. And then it's like this precursor that we're seeing, like the new generation of stars leading into the All-Star game. So you have this nice dichotomy of the future stars with the current stars that we're about to see in the home run derby, or you should have it on location at the All-Star game before the All-Star game. So if you have the afternoon, it is a standalone event. There's nothing on at that point. Everyone's there. All the GMs, all the front offices can be there. And then it leads directly into the All-Star game. That same concept of the new generation and then the current stars that we have. I didn't like the way it was handled. And to your point, it should be something that they build up. Granted, the issues of all players not potentially being there, that has to be handled separately, but it just wasn't great.
Yeah, and I asked a couple questions about this, and my understanding is, and it does make some sense, is that the teams, Tom, the teams don't want to do it Sunday night and Monday night if they have a choice, because Tom, think about it, for the employees, this is their break during the All-Star break too, and they don't even get one if they're doing it during this time. So I think that was sort of what happened here, is they moved it up to get it done before the All-Star break. I love that idea because I'm telling you, these people work really hard on all these clubs, whether it's scouting and development, whatever, to give them a break. It has to happen. But I'm saying move this thing up to like the College World Series in June or something like that. Like I think you got to move this up significantly, and it's got to be its own event for me, because in the end, and we'll take a look now at who was drafted, and I think it's a special moment for a lot of these players still. And I did see the coverage. I thought it was actually good. Rock Chalowski was drafted, and that was a little bit of a surprise. Grady Emerson went second, Lackey third, Jackson Flora fourth. You see the list there. But my fear is in a few years from here, Tom, we lost that moment for them. Now, they'll always have that moment. I just don't think that these are going to be household names for anyone, because no one's going to remember Travis Bazzano or holding up the card, whatever. It's done, because I don't think anybody knew it existed yesterday. Very weird.
Yeah, the hype surrounding different drafts is all over the place. Obviously, NFL up at the top because these players are making an immediate impact. Chalowski, won the Spikes Award. I want to see some of these players, I don't want to say accelerated to the major league level, but there's always been a disconnect for me for the draft where you have these hype, this hype around these players, but then they won't be there for 3, 4, 5 years for some of them. Some of them are still in high school. Some of them are only 18. Some of them are not going to make their debut till they're 23, 24. Like, oh, that's right. The team that I root for drafted this guy 4th overall 5 years ago. And I forgot about him because he's been working his way through the system. So there's a little bit of a disconnect between the fans, the players, the teams, everything. The draft needs to be sorted out in some capacity.
Well, there's some discussion, as you know, Tom, that this could be the last year of the draft with high school players eligible to be in the draft. They would have to go through a year or two, which I actually like, because a lot of these kids coming through high school are not ready at all. They're taking their $5 million bonus. You never hear from them ever again. And, as we go up with inflation, $2, $3, $4 million sounds fantastic. And then all of a sudden, where are these kids at 20 years from now? That's not going to last for the rest of their lives. I think we know that as well. All right, let's take a look at Home Run Derby on Monday night. I'll have coverage for you along with Joe Ranieri for Home Run Derby here on SportsGrid and the All-Star game because I'll be off. It's my All-Star break. The 2026 Home Run Derby field is pretty cut and dry at this point. Late adds here, Munetaka Murakami, who comes off the injured list in time over the weekend to join the field here. But I think the easy go-to here is the one that I picked last year, and he came up just short. Mm-hmm. That is Junior Caminero. I think he's going to win it, Tom. I don't know. I mean, I'll talk more about this tomorrow night, but the thing that I know, because, again, I'm around, is that Junior Caminero, Tom, at home and on the road, has been practicing for the Home Run Derby. Every batting practice, this guy is practicing at home on the road. I saw it here in Miami for 3 straight days, and this was going back about a month ago, is that I think this guy wants it. I think he's going to do it. I know that there are some rule changes, which we'll get into as well, but to me, it is cut and dry. I don't need to look at any of the other names. I think this guy's going to win it.
Yeah, I was watching the Rays Mariners game on Friday night, and they cut to it, whatever point during the broadcast of him taking batting practice with those swings. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Where Murakami, I couldn't possibly trust coming off of an injury. But Caminero, based on where he is with the odds, and based on the at least somewhat success that he's had at the Home Run Derby, he has some experience. I think it makes sense. We're not taking some super long shot. We're not taking one of the guys deep down the list. We're not saying, oh, he could win. Why don't you just take a flagship? No, the odds are realistic enough. We're not betting on the favorite. We're getting enough value, and he wants it. Like, he appears that he wants it. And, Schwarber and Harper, they're there because they're the home team. They're there to put on a show. I don't know if Jordan Walker or Jack Caglione has enough experience or know what they're how to pace themselves. Caminero really checks all the boxes that we possibly want.
Yeah. I've seen his BPs recently in person.
He was swinging hard in the clip that they showed in the Rays.
I saw it here in Miami. We watched batting practice, and we were like, what is he doing? What is the point of this? Because guys don't do that, and they're like, he's practicing for a Home Run Derby. I'm like, oh, okay. By the way, the new system in this year's Derby is 20 swings in the first round, 15 swings in the second and third. And so the clock system is gone. I love this idea. I think this is going to be much, much better for the Home Run Derby. Mm-hmm. That's the one good thing about baseball. They do tinker with a lot of these ideas, pitch clock, contests, and they generally have worked. We'll be back with more next. Who's hot heading into the All-Star break? Let's go through it here. Several players you'll be seeing participating in the All-Star game, Home Run Derby as well. It is not hot anymore, honestly, when we talk about Jordan Walker. It was hot in April, but here we are in July, and the guy's OPS is pushing 900. If you want to look toward why the Cardinals are where they are, I think this is Exhibit A. I think there's 26 guys on the roster, so it can't just be one player, Tom. But Jordan Walker epitomizes, to me, the surprise of the season. Remember, he's been toiling with the Cardinals up and down in the minors, doing nothing. Like at the point of I'm thinking Chaim Bloom's just going to get rid of this guy and try to get something back. Now, all of a sudden, he's on the verge of breaking out as a superstar.
Yeah, the team itself is constructed very uniquely, where they have a lot of homegrown talent on that roster, just everywhere from pitchers to hitters. And, as you said, he has been all over the place the past few years, just never living up to expectations. He's kind of reaching some of those expectations. They have the, influx with J.J. Weatherholt. They have some good veteran hitters with Alec Burleson, who I really like, and he's had a great year. Now, he has cooled off a little bit. April and May, to your point, were very hot for him, but he is still being consistent, and seeing him cut down on the strikeouts, I think, is the most important thing. Seeing better in-zone contact, I think, is one of the turning points that we can look to for him, and really all hitters that do eventually turn the corner. In-zone contact and cutting down on strikeouts.
Yankees have been treading water now without Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton for over a month, and Ben Rice is not just treading water, he's swimming in it. 29 home runs this season, 66 runs driven in. We saw some of this breakout last year. We've really seen it this year. Right-handed pitchers, I mean, he is just absolutely killing them, Tom. Like, he is as good a left-handed pitcher against righties than anybody I've seen in the game right now. 971 OPS. And, they're just trying to hang on until if Judge, I guess, comes back and Giancarlo Stanton. But young player here, I wonder what his second half is going to look like.
Right. He went through a little bit of a slump right after Judge got hurt and went on the IL. He was certainly slumping for a bit. He's turned things around in a big way, especially in the series versus the Rays when they split that series 2-2 with the Rays. He had like 5 home runs in that 4-game series, a game with multiple home runs. So turning things around at the right time, heading into the Home Run Derby, which he'll be participating on Monday night. But good for him, good for the Yankees, who have kind of turned things around on their front.
Sonny Gray is probably not going to be pitching where he is now, or at least we don't think he will be. I guess that's to be determined at this point as things sort of turn around here at Boston. But 19 innings pitched, an ERA under 1, 19 strikeouts, 4 walks. Gray has delivered on the mound all season long for Boston as they start to win a little bit here, interestingly enough. The American League is just so bad that they've been able to stay alive. But, man, Gray has been great here, Tom, and it seems like wherever he pitches, he's really good, right? Like, it just doesn't matter of the team. I mean, he's been around a long time in the big leagues. People forget this is more than a 10-year guy.
Yeah, he was with Oakland to start. He was traded to the Yankees. He's been with the Reds. He's been really all over the place. But, to your point with the Red Sox, they're only half game out from a wild card. We were talking about them a week ago saying, okay, where are they going to sit? What are they going to do? They're on an 8-game winning streak as of right now. And Sonny Gray would be the guy that we have talked about over the past few shows, Craig, that saying a playoff-bound team would want him. They don't need him as an ace. They don't need him as a 2, but you give him on a 3 spot on a playoff-bound team, that's the type of guy a team wants. I'm not sure the Red Sox will be moving him now.
Yeah, Red Sox are in it. Mets probably not. The NL's a little bit better than the AL, but Nolan McLean has done his part. 18 innings pitched over his last 3, 19 strikeouts, 5 walks, 1.00 earned run average. I suspected at some point the Mets would at least play 500 ball. I think they'll probably do that the rest of the season. They just dug themselves such a big hole. But McLean is one of the reasons why they've been hanging around.
He has been. He was one of the favorites to win NL Rookie of the Year. We did see him in a portion last year, but he was still eligible for Rookie of the Year this year. He's been great. He's been the ace that the Mets need, and he really is their future ace. That's the player they're going to build around their pitching staff. It's great to see him do well. They need him to continue to do well if they have any hope. Obviously, that hope is obviously gone at this point, but they need him to be a true ace.
They really do. And there's certainly a chance that he will be. I want to get to this story real quick as we close out this segment, which is about the idea of using metal bats in the home run derby. We heard this story here, Tom. It was brought up by Bryce Harper. He thinks it would be fun. We're going to see Monday night. I don't think we're going to need metal bats to see 200 home runs on Monday night. What do you think about this idea, Tom?
I think it's a little crazy. Metal bats can be fun, but I don't know if this is the right environment for metal bats to be out there with the best hitters in the world, with young kids in the outfield, getting the fly balls. I'm not sure that's the safest environment all the way around.
Yeah, I think you're right. Got to keep the kids and the fans out of the outfield in order to have this happen, I think. All right, coming up next, hot teams in baseball, as Tom mentioned, one of them, the Boston Red Sox. Do they now have a shot? Are they buyers from being sellers less than 2 weeks ago? We'll answer that question and a whole lot more next.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one to elevate you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, he's driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
Welcome back to Pro Baseball Today. Who's hot in Major League Baseball? We lead off with the hottest team right now going. That is the Boston Red Sox, or at least over the last week, they've been the hottest team because they haven't lost. They took care of the White Sox in a 3-game sweep earlier in the week, Tom, and then Friday and Saturday won the series against the New York Mets. If this was a normal season in baseball, having the record the Red Sox would have, you would sort of ask the question, should the Red Sox still be selling? Should they look toward next year? I don't know how they can do that right now, Tom. The American League is just so bad. I mean, Houston is feeling like they're in it, and their team is terrible. So, Boston, have they put themselves back in it at this point? Because I guess if you really, pull the curtain behind a little bit, with all the pressure on the president of baseball operations, Craig Breslow, you would assume that he's going to want to go for this, right? He's going to be like, oh, we're good enough. Let's fight. I think that's probably what I think is going to happen.
That's probably what will happen. And, a week ago when you're 5-6 games out of a wild card approaching the All-Star break, you would say, okay, we're out of it. We have to be sellers of the deadline coming up in fewer than 30 days. But all of a sudden they're half game out of the wild card. And because of the dynamic of the AL, which is just so weak top to bottom, fighting for that wild card, we have a number of teams within 3-4 games. The Red Sox are at a spot to go for it, but ultimately, I think he's going to do so in order to potentially save his job. When in reality, the best thing for the Red Sox would be to kind of reset, to trade away Sonny Gray and Aroldis Chapman, Duran, whomever might be. That would be the best actual course. But the fan base, because of how upset they've been, I'm not sure that's going to come to fruition. They need to reset, but Breslow's never going to let that happen.
Yeah, I think Houston feels like the same situation with Dana Brown, and maybe Houston's best to take a look and say we have Correa and Altuve and all these old guys. Should we reset? But hard to tell that to a GM. All right, Miami's in a much different position than anybody would have anticipated at the beginning of the season. They've been the best baseball team in the land since June, Tom. Tough weekend here against Cleveland, but they ended up sweeping Seattle. It was the 7th time the Marlins have had a sweep this season, which is incredible to think that has been their thing. Now, they've been hitting, they've been pitching. I know things have been a little bit slow this weekend, but Tom, nobody could have anticipated the Marlins being, they were at one point 10 games over, let alone 5 or 6 or even 3. So I suspect, Tom, that the Marlins will be pushing the foot down here a little bit in a month from now. But the only thing that I would caution people with, Tom, is that because of the moving of the trade deadline to not even August 1st, but the first week in August, we really still won't have clarity for a couple of weeks on any team.
It's really the case. A slow weekend to your point right now with Cleveland, but even if they were to lose the final game of that series, I think any Marlins fan should be thrilled of where they are in a wild card spot. This great on offense with literally multiple players that deserve to be all-stars, even if they may not end up being recognized as all-stars. They have players that are doing absolutely fantastic. And to your point, there's still room for them to continue to improve before the deadline. And that's when we're going to find out about a lot of teams. And because of the way things set in the NL wild card, there's no reason that they shouldn't be pushing.
Yeah, Miami is right there. One team that's going to try and make a push here, and it feels like it's the same story every year, Tom, and that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're really well run. They're never fantastic. It feels like they try and like sort of hang around and then go on a run like they did to get to that World Series a few years ago against Texas. They're having a nice weekend. They beat the Padres. They already won the series against the Dodgers. I think Arizona's issue is the back end of that lineup, and honestly, unfortunately, their pitching. Their pitching is probably going to have to get better. But if you have watched Tom Arizona through the years, it feels like they're involved at the deadline every year with some tinkering, every year with a player or two to see if they can make it. I think that'll be their temptation once again, is to make a little bit of a push here to see if they can grab a wild card spot. Obviously, they're not going to catch LA for the division.
Right. No one's catching the Dodgers at this point, but the top portion of their lineup, I think, is pretty darn good. But as to your point, the back end of the lineup and the bullpen and the pitching is just not well-rounded enough. Not having Corbin Burns is obviously an issue. We know that. And when you have pitchers that just don't live up to expectations, and you get Zach Gallen back, and he's really not been great at all, and now he's going on the IL, and you have all-stars at the top of your lineup with Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte and Perdomo. You have some great pieces, but it's just not a well-rounded enough offense, and it's just not a well-rounded enough pitching staff. That's what it's come down to. I think they'll push for the wild card. I don't think they'll make it.
It hasn't been a great week for Milwaukee, but we wanted to recognize that it has been a great half again for Milwaukee. Right. They're one of the best teams in all of baseball, and they do it in so many different ways, Tom. The one way that they don't do it is home runs, which in this day and age is kind of crazy to think that they can finish near the bottom and they have a chance to be right at the bottom in home runs in the National League. And, somehow it just doesn't matter which pitcher they call up or what they do, they end up winning. I did notice on Saturday, which I thought was significant, that Kyle Harrison had some, I think, forearm issue where he's going on the injured list. And I know that he has been so good for them all year. But then and Mizorowski got scratched from his start too. But when I look at it, Tom, why do I think that the Brewers are just simply going to bring somebody up from the minors and they're going to throw 6 shutout innings against whoever they pitch against next time? I mean, this is kind of what they do.
Yeah, it is. And, you said it with the Diamondbacks, a well-run organization. I think that's what the Brewers are. Now, the Brewers never been a big money spender for, in free agency or at the trade deadline. They have a great pitching staff. I still think they need to shore up something at the bottom portion of their lineup. And that's when things will really take shape for them. Because, again, this is about building an NL lineup that can compete with the Dodgers. Because I think their pitching staff can. I'm not sure the bottom portion of their lineup can. So they need 1 or 2 more pieces, and then they'll truly be in a great spot.
Meanwhile, the Tigers were fortunate enough to have the A's on the schedule. Talking about playing the worst baseball in the game. I know we'll get to that. The A's have been an absolute disaster lately. Wow. After that nice start to them, it feels like the wheels are falling off that team. So Detroit is now back in it again because they are playing in the American League. Even the Twins feel like they're in it. But anyway, they swept the A's just like the Marlins did. And they split their series thus far against the Philadelphia Phillies. So I guess, Tom, I would ask you this. Like, the Tigers seem to be bona fide sellers a week ago, but now all of a sudden, it feels like maybe they're back in. And now I'm convinced the Royals are out, okay? No matter if they win 5 in a row, I'm still going to say they're out. But the Tigers do have a talented squad here. Should the Tigers hang around? I mean, this is the hardest part here, Tom, again, with this deadline on, I think it's August 3rd or August 4th, whatever it is. We really are not going to, we're going to come back on the show next week and the week after and still not know if these teams are in or out.
They are 2.5 games out of the wild card. They have a positive run differential, and yet they have the player that is most highly sought after in Skubal for literally any team. And his name has obviously been there in terms of the trade rumors for a year or so at this point. Will they trade him? I believe they have to. Not trading him is a spot that you are not maximizing the return that you could possibly get. It's ultimately the job of the GM or the president of baseball operations. You have to do what's best for the team. If you're not going to be able to re-sign him, you have to trade him. It doesn't matter if you're in a wild card spot or not. You don't have the flexibility to keep him and then not get anything back in return. Yeah,
my sense is my gut tells me is that Detroit's going to still trade him, Tom. I think they're going to look at that Ohtani situation for a few years ago. And look, I can't guarantee it, but the price that someone's going to pay to get him down the stretch that could reset their franchise for 2 months of Skubal. I mean, the Tigers are not winning the World Series. They're probably not going to the American League Championship Series. Don't you think, Tom, they have to do that? Like, unless they're over 500 and they're in. Beyond that, they cannot be a 500 club chasing ghosts here. I think they got to move.
They really can. And to your point, we have a couple more. It's not just like this is around the corner this Thursday. We have actually a couple more weeks. So if all of a sudden that they are firmly in a wild card spot come August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever it is, that's going to be a different story. But that is going to be the determining factor, because if they're there, that's the hardest decision you have to make. You have to keep the player and not get anything back in return, knowing that you're still not good enough to win the World Series, or you just have to move on from him and give up on the season and lose the playoff spot that you presumably have.
All right, that's Who's Hot. When we come back after the break, we'll do Who's Not in Major League Baseball. You're watching Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with Tom Vecchio. Stay with us here on the grid on this Sunday as we get ready to wrap it up and hit the All-Star break in baseball. We'll be back with more right after. From Who's Hot to Who's Not, pretty cut and dry for a couple of squads here heading into the break. Let's start off with disappointing Kansas City Royals team this season, Tom. They just have not been able to get it going at all, and they had some expectations. They started off the week with maybe a breakout against the Mets. They scored 16 runs, and then they've lost every game since. They lost to the Mets twice. They've lost to the Orioles. Orioles feeling like maybe they're back in it. Kansas City is not, so I guess it's trade time for them, Tom. It certainly feels like. Unfortunately, they really don't have a ton to deal. That's kind of the issue with them. They've got a couple of pitchers. We're getting messages like they're not even going to trade those guys. I don't buy that for a second. Kansas City, I don't know. They're going to have to take a deep look at that organization after the year and decide what to do, because it's hard to be back on the rise and then fall so flat like they have this season.
Yeah, making the postseason a couple of years ago and then seemingly not being able to get back to that point. the Lugo, Waka pitchers I believe you're referring to, those are the pitchers that need to be traded. Again, those aren't top tier pitchers, but they are good depth arms for teams that are pushing for a wild card spot or whatever it might be. You have some good young pieces. You've dealt with a ton of injuries this year, and I think they just need to chalk this up to a bad lost year and move on from that.
Okay, fair enough. Tom's very even keel with Kansas City, but you're not with the A's. I know that. So after getting swept last weekend by Miami, and Miami scoring like 700 runs in Sacramento, the same thing is happening now this week as Detroit swept them, and now the White Sox are crushing them. They beat them 14-1 Friday. I know it was a close game on Saturday, which begs the question, Tom, is this going to be another Coors? Is this going to be something that destroys pitchers in Sacramento? The optimism that the A's had entering July, it was there. Like we thought, maybe they'll fight for the division. Maybe they'll hang around. They have been the worst team in baseball over the last week and a half, and the pitchers can't get out of the second inning there. So I know they still got to play another season there. I'm hoping that this doesn't happen in Las Vegas and they're playing indoors, so maybe that will change here a little bit. But I don't know that this is sustainable.
I don't either. And, just a week ago, we were looking at the AL West and saying, okay, we have 4 teams that are within 3 games of it. And now all of a sudden the Athletics are 7 games back out of the top spot in the AL West, and obviously further back when it comes to the wild card. There's pieces that the A's have that are really fun, right? Jacob Wilson was great last year. You have Soderstrom, you have Nick Kurtz, albeit that he is injured right now. You bring up a pitcher like Gage Jump. It's like you have these pieces, but due to the external factors of the park or anything else, you just can't have a winning season. You can't put them all together at the same time. You can't try and slug your way to wins 10-8 every time. You're going to lose a lot of those games. You may score a lot of runs, but if you're going to lose half those games, it's never going to be sustainable long term.
Yankees, meanwhile, I feel like fans are starting to come to terms with the Yankees a little bit. I mean, there's still these same fans that are destroying the Yankees every day and firing Boone and this and that. Like, do they not understand how this team is constructed every year? It's the same thing. They go through their slumps. They have big highs, Tom. They have massive lows. Feel like they're breaking out of it a little bit. They lost that series to Tampa Bay, so everyone's crowning Tampa Bay as the division champs. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. They took care of Washington this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Tom, the Yankees are going to make trades. They're going to be in the postseason. And it's what I say every single week and every single year. If the Yankees are getting hot at the end of the season and into October, they're going to make a nice deep run. And they're going to, maybe go to the World Series like they played against L.A. And if not, they're going to get bounced right away in the first round. I mean, this is the way that they're built. And I got nothing more on the topic. That's it.
Yeah, so, we gave credit to the Brewers for being hot because they had a very hot first half, albeit they hadn't been hot super late. But, the Yankees had a great first half. They're one of the, top 5 or 6 records in all baseball. They split the series versus the Rays. So I got a bone to pick with our producer, Sam, that, you split a series versus one of the best teams in the league. You win a series going into the All-Star break, and they still had a great first half. It's been bad recently, but they're still the same team that they were a couple months ago. It hasn't been consistent. They'll be there in the postseason. Boy,
Sam taking shots here on a Sunday. That's hard-working Sam. He doesn't like to hear that. He's going to throw some weird graphics on your face. All right, Padres. Where are we at with the Padres here? They certainly don't appear to be the same Padres team of old, but then you get to that trade deadline, and A.J. Preller starts, making crazy trades, and you're like, what are they doing? And then all of a sudden they're back in the postseason again. Tom, I don't think this is their year. I don't think so. There's just too many holes on this team for me. They took care of Arizona earlier in the week. They split the series, at least thus far, against Toronto. But that's what they have to count on, Tom, is they have to count on a massive trade, like a Soto-type trade, I think, to get them into the postseason. Otherwise, I think this is a 500 team. That's it.
500 team, I think, is pushing. They have the worst offense in the MLB. The lowest scoring offense is the San Diego Padres. I wouldn't have guessed that. You give me 50 tries, I wouldn't have guessed the Padres coming into this year that would have the lowest scoring offense in baseball. For the pitching staff that they're supposed to have, didn't come to fruition. I know things could have been different if Yu Darvish was there and Joe Musgrove was there. They could have had a 6-man rotation. Everyone would have been healthy. Sure. The problem is when the offense is so bad, the strongest portion of the Padres team is what? The bullpen. But if you can't get to them with the lead, that bullpen doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. If you can't turn it over to Mason Miller with a 2 or 3 run lead, then he never gets to shine. So when the offense doesn't live up to hype, and Tatis is having a bad year, and Gavin Sheets is a good veteran, but he only can do so much, and Jackson Merrill doesn't live up to hype, and Xander Bogaerts has a horrible contract, and Manny Machado's on the backside of the script, and all these pieces fall together, you're going to have one of the worst scoring teams in baseball, and nothing else matters if you can't score runs and turn it over to a great bullpen.
Yeah, but the thing is for me is like, do they take Mason Miller and move? He's been the best reliever in baseball to move him for a major league. But for a major league player, maybe, like to say, or a hitter, like this is the crazy stuff that happens with Preller. Look, Preller's going to do something at the deadline. This guy has to do something. He always does. But, certainly we'll see, because the Padres have been perennial contenders, perennial playoff team. But this year, definitely on the outside looking in the National League with some other teams jumping up a little bit. All right, just a quick programming reminder. For Monday night's All-Star or Home Run Derby, it's the end of the week. I will be on with Joe Ranieri on Monday night, and we'll have live coverage here of Home Run Derby, so make sure you tune in. The game will be on Netflix, but we, of course, have coverage here on SportsGrid. And then Tuesday night will be Major League Baseball's Midsummer Classic and the All-Star Game. We'll be back here for that, and then I'll take a couple days off and be back with you guys here on SportsGrid and get ready for the second half of the Major League Baseball season. So let's stick around here and take a quick break. We'll come back and wrap up this first hour of the show and tell you who is not going to be pitching in Major League Baseball on Sunday. Don't go away.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
Welcome back to Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. The Brewers announced that Jacob Misiorowski would not pitch in the All-Star game on Tuesday. I know everybody wanted to see him, but they got their taste last season. Hard to argue with Milwaukee not wanting to extend him a little bit. And then they watched the Miz pitch this weekend, and Pat Murphy said, Tom, you know what? We're going to hold him back Sunday too. So some fatigue from his last start. I saw Miami do this also with Max Meyer, so I'm going to not be worried here for the Miz. I'm going to just say that they want to give him a full week off. The other thing that they could do, Tom, is if you think about it, they don't have to start Meyer or Misiorowski when the Brewers come out of the break. They could wait till like Sunday of next week and give him another full week off. I would expect him to pitch out of the break. It feels like just a lot of precautionary stuff going on with Ohtani, with the Miz, with a lot of other players too. So I'm not going to be worried here. I'm not going to sound any alarms. I'm just going to say that the Brewers probably figured to themselves, what's the point here? Let's give him a full week off.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to put it. What's the point? He's up to 111 innings this season. Last year, he only pitched 66. So it's not like, oh, he's on pace to break a career high innings. He's blown past that already. So if they can give him this off, maybe he doesn't pitch on Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week. Maybe they come out and he pitches on Monday. Yeah, that's a significant amount of time. If they're already slightly worried about your Cy Young pitcher and you are sitting in this spot in terms of the NL Central, all these things, give him the time off. I think it's fine. It is. I don't want to say it's not going to be fun to not see the top pitchers, but we're not going to see Skeens. We're not going to see the Miz, for the NL team. It should be Chris Sanchez starting for Philly. In the All-Star game, it is at home. But this is going to happen every year where you have a pitcher that's all-star bound and he pitches on Sunday and he's not going to pitch anyway. So it really doesn't matter that much.
Chad Tracy, after this nice little run here with the Red Sox, says he'd like to stick around as manager. Look, it's possible, Tom. The Red Sox have to be careful here. No disrespect to Tracy, but what if they bring this guy back and then they start off 2-10? It's going to be... Why did we do this sort of thing? I'm going to be TBD on this one. How about you? I'm not ready to say this.
Yeah, Chad Tracy says he wants to be back as the Red Sox manager. Like, congrats. Like, what a hot take by him saying he wants to stick around for one of the most historic, biggest brands in baseball. What a take by him. Do they bring him back? I don't think so. I think, like I said, it's very TBD on whether or not he wants to be back. He himself wants to be back. Awesome. Great news there. Congrats. It's what a staggering way for him to go out on a cliff and have that take that he wants to be back for the Red Sox.
Yeah, probably in fairness to him, somebody asked him, and I think he's probably forced to answer, so I don't want to crush him too bad on that. I can only answer the questions you're asked. Zach Wheeler answered the question about the All-Star break or the All-Star game earlier this week. He said that he should be in it, and he can pitch in it. And why not put me in it? And then they proceeded to add like 3 more players after he said that. And then finally they got down on this list to Zach Wheeler to get in the All-Star game. And Tom Wheeler said, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be treated like a, quote, 5th option. This is not something a lot of players would do, Tom. Zach Wheeler's been around for over 10 years in Major League Baseball. And is not going through salary arbitration and doesn't have to worry about whether all-star selections mean anything. But this is the first time that I could ever remember somebody declining an all-star invitation. And I'm talking about ever. I don't ever remember seeing this before.
Yeah, I would say that this is unique, but, we have seen some questionable comments from Wheeler in the past. Was it a year or 2 ago where he said after, the 2026 or 2027 that he was going to retire? Like, he was getting out in front that he was going to retire multiple years down the road. He's pitched well enough, I believe, in order to be an all-star. He doesn't have the same innings as some of the other pitchers because he started the year a little bit late coming back from the thoracic syndrome that he had. But he's been great. If he doesn't want to be there, I think that's totally fine by him. He doesn't feel the need to be there. It's not, in terms of he does have some type of contract incentive, but to see him outright decline, I think is a little funny, especially because it's at home. Like, it's in Philly. Like, this would presumably this is his last hurrah to be with the fans, et cetera, et cetera. But he's just flat out declining. A little bit funny.
He's not happy. Red Sox were not happy either. Their plane was delayed a couple different times, and they had to show up in New York, Tom, and play a game after getting in at 5 p.m. Eastern. They ended up winning the game, and then they're sort of using this as some fuel here. No pun intended with the plane stuff, but pretty cool story for Boston, right? To have this happen and get the win out of it. But what no one understands, Tom, it's always the residual from this, like what ends up happening later on.
Right. Fun story for Boston. Embarrassing for the Mets that you had a team not in their normal routine. The pitcher was all out of whack in terms of the pitchers being a little bit weird on the days that they start. They go in when the Mets have been sitting there at home and lose. Absolutely embarrassing for the Mets.
Yeah, it feels like travel baseball at my my son's age. Just show up, no practice, just play the game. All right, coming up next, we got our first half sluggers and best pitchers, too. We'll be back. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. It's Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. Thanks for sticking around with us here throughout the Major League Baseball season. Tom and I, of course, all the way through the months of July and August, we'll have baseball covered for you. So let's get into the first half as we put a bow on Sunday's games and get ready for the All-Star break starting tomorrow. I'll start off with the best hitter. Now, Tom did take mine, so I had to come up with the second best hitter. So just keep that in mind here. I'm going Jordan Walker of the Cardinals. And, maybe it's the fantasy baseball player in me, Tom. I don't know. But maybe it is, because somebody may say, all right, well, look, don't his numbers are great. Okay, let's not get it twisted. 887 OPS, 22 homers, 74 runs driven in. But he's also stealing bases, Tom. To me, adding on a 20 stolen base season to a 30 or 40 home run season, I think Walker's going to be near the top in the National League at the end of the year.
He will be. He deserves to. It's also nice to see, just where the player goes in his career arc of struggling. He was a top prospect, as sent down and back up and down a million times for the Cardinals over the past years, but finally has seemingly found his footing, and that is good to see. I'll turn to my best hitter for the first half of the season, and that's going to be Yordan Alvarez, and the MVP frontrunner, at least as of now, in the AL. And it's not just the 31 home runs; it's that he's hitting for average, right? We see players hit for average, we see players hit for home runs, and when you do both, I think that is something that is truly special. You add in the RBIs, his OPS is over 1,000. And the same question as it was for Yordan coming into the season. Everyone says, oh, he's just, if he stays healthy. It's yeah, that's the only thing he needs to go in his favor if he stays healthy. But everything else will be there for him. He's going to hit for average. He's going to hit for power. It's been an awesome season for him.
Yeah, and your guy, Tom, is Yordan, and I think it's a really good choice. He's the front runner for the American League MVP. His competition is like Ben Rice at this point. I don't think he's got it locked up, because we got a long way to go, and Yordan's a big dude, and one hamstring all of a sudden, and who knows? I'm not rooting for that. But even on this lackluster Houston team, Tom, I agree with you. 100% right? He's been the MVP of the league, right?
Yeah, I think so at this point.
Chris Sale is my best pitcher here. I wanted to go with Christopher Sanchez just because of the stellar month that he had in the month of May. But I'm going to go with Sale here, Tom, because I feel like in some crazy way, even though I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, he's a little bit underrated. I think he's flying under the radar because he doesn't have the cachet of the Sanchez month, or the Miz throwing 106, or Ohtani's ERA under 2. This guy is just plodding along, putting together a Cy Young season in any other year, and yet he's like third or fourth in the odds.
That's what's most impressive, is that he's so good, yet he's not considered one of the top 2 options really when it comes to the NL Cy Young, or maybe top 3 options if you add in Yamamoto and or Ohtani for the Dodgers. My top pitcher is, of course, the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski for the Brewers. He's been fantastic. Yes, we'd like to see him pitch against Paul Skeens. We'd like to see him pitch in the All-Star game, but what he has done has been fantastic. The ERA is impossibly low. Also, looking to the advanced metrics, it's not as if he's overperforming by some significant margin. His xFIP is still sitting at 2.10. He doesn't walk anyone, which I love to see. It's great to see him throw 100, 100, 300, 400, 6, wherever it's going to be, but just the consistency of the strikeouts and controlling things with the walks is what I find truly impressive.
My biggest surprise of the season, I'm going to stick with the Marlins here. I'm going to go with Otto Lopez, who's third in the National League in WAR. What a season he is having, Tom. He's leading the league in batting average. His 885 OPS has been fantastic. What a year for Otto.
It really has been, and it's not just the average. It's getting on base. It's the fact that he's taken an interesting career path to get here with the Blue Jays. He gets let go. He doesn't play in 2023. Then he comes back, and he's playing at, I'm not just going to say an all-star level. It's it's beyond that he hits for such consistent average. He doesn't strike out. He doesn't have a ton of power, but the job he has at the top of the lineup, he has done to perfection and beyond that. My biggest surprise is going to be the Mets and really how bad they have been. And, you lose Lindor, I get it. You lose Soto, they're in and out of the lineup. But good teams can sustain that even with the players out. You can withstand, losing one or two players. To see how far they have dropped for the payroll that they have, I think is beyond unacceptable. If you told me that they were treading water, they're going to fight for a wild card, maybe they were a step behind because the Braves got so far out in the NL East and the Braves and the Marlins were having such a good year, they could fight for a wild card, I would understand that. But being this far down, I think is unacceptable for the payroll that they have and the expectations that they had coming into the season. It's beyond the pale.
Yeah, I think that, the shocking thing isn't the record, it's the run differential, because you're right, Tom, they've been just so bad. So look, David Stearns is going to have so much work to do ahead of him. But Tom, beyond like Peralta, who by the way is not having a good year either, do they have any real pieces to move that aren't under significant contracts that they can get a return for here? Because you hear Bichette's name and some of the others, but like some team has to take these guys on too, and the money.
Right. And it's not just about like, oh, they want to get rid of a player. You need to have a team that's willing to take on that contract, knowing the looming CBA negotiations that we constantly reference. That does play a factor into things. A team not willing to take on that salary, not knowing how it's going to impact things in the years to come, is a significant thing. Some teams are just going to be unwilling to do that. The Mets would like to potentially move some of these players. I just think they swung and missed in the offseason, and then they pivoted and took things out of left field, no pun intended.
My biggest letdown of the season is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. These numbers are just absolutely staggering here to see him only have 6 home runs and 41 runs driven in, Tom. 265 batting average. Coming off that World Series, some people thought that this would not be a breakout year. Vlad's broken out for years and he's been in all these home run derbies, but to take this huge step back here is stunning.
It really is. If you told me he had 6 home runs at the end of May, I would say that, he's off to a slow start. We have 6 home runs, and you're like, okay, then we're getting now we're at the All-Star, but he only has 6 home runs. It's absolutely unbelievable, and we know that he pulled himself at the All-Star game. People want to say that there's some type of postseason or World Series hangover. I don't think he's fully healthy. I still think something is wrong with his, something underlying. For me, the biggest letdown in the first half is going to be, Cal Raleigh. And it's not just he was injured and he missed some time. It's that when he plays, it has been absolutely abysmal. Coming off of last year, what he did, which was so special last year, not just the home runs, but really doing it as a catcher, something that we've legitimately never seen, and I'm not sure we will see again. But the drop-off is so significant and so staggering. He went from a 161 WRC plus last year to this year it's sitting at 71. His strikeout rate, which has always been bad, it's now over 32%. So when he plays, I would have liked to still see him be effective and productive when he plays. And granted, he's missed a lot of time, but to see him drop off this far, I think is again, it's staggering to see how much that's, and really, we saw it in the World Baseball Classic, but he was swinging and missing at everything.
Yeah, I saw him play here this week, Tom, and he didn't look right at all. He lifted a ball deep for a double, but did almost nothing else. Can't catch up to the fastball. And Tom, do you think maybe it's the oblique issue that he had earlier in the year? Because maybe that's it. Maybe he's just trying to play through this.
It could be as simple as that. He got the big contract in the prior to last season, which I do think he deserves. But it's just one of those things where if he's not fully healthy, the day-to-day stress of playing catcher and being solely a power hitter, those things don't vibe together. You can't be solely a power hitter and trying to play catcher. If he was just solely a DH, maybe he could work his way through it and he could find some even keel eventually. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Doesn't look good for Cal Raleigh, and naturally, if you think about the MVPs, Tom, from last season, that battle with Raleigh and Judge, if I would have told you at the beginning of the season that neither would be a factor, you would have said, get out of here. Both guys, you're out of your mind, but that's the truth.
You could say that Raleigh wouldn't replicate what he did in 2025 and thus wouldn't be in the conversation, but to see them both out, we just don't see that in sports.
No, we don't. All right. Tom and I got to take a break. When we come back next, it's time to take a look at the playoff picture. We'll look at the odds over on FanDuel. We'll get to some prediction markets as well. You're watching Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with Tom Vecchio as we continue on here on this Sunday. We'll be back right after this. step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on Call Sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Skubal. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
like,
on
stop
the
jumping.
Turf. He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The older players in the WNBA going, hey, man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Welcome back to Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. One of the hardest things to do for us as we get to the first half of the baseball season is take a look at these odds and try and predict who's going to make the playoffs this season, because it is very murky in both the American League and the National League. Now, naturally, the Dodgers are going to make it, and some other teams will too, but we're all bunched up here, Tom. We are all bunched up. So let's take a look at some of the squads here and look at the odds. Cleveland Guardians right now, who I'm watching this weekend, they're minus 178 to make the playoffs, plus 142 to miss. We know Cleveland had that epic run to get into the playoffs last year. Tom, I'm watching them up close and personal. I mean, I got to say, they're the only team giving the Marlins fits here in the last month and a half. So I do have to say to myself here, maybe this is one squad that gets in. What I especially like, Tom, from them is it feels like when you're down a run with them, it feels like you're down 10. They have this really strong bullpen in the back end. Kate Smith has been fantastic, and Holderman has been really good too, and they have lefties and righties, and they grind out these at-bats, and they always seem to be in the game too. So I don't know if this means that they're going to win a playoff series, but I'd stay away from this only because I agree with the odds. Minus 178, I think Cleveland's getting in.
Right. And, the way I've always described Cleveland over the past few years, they're a pesky team. They're a pesky team that cause you fits in different aspects. They bloop and blast. They can get on base. They'll sacrifice whatever it might be. I agree with those odds as well. Minus 178 to make the playoffs. The only thing I would say is right now that they're plus 100 to win the AL Central, which is completely up in the air. Now, once they get J-Run back, I think those odds are going to change. I think they're better than the White Sox. So my point being is I'd rather play them to win the division rather than just make the playoffs.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at the Texas Rangers, who, because of Seattle's floundering around or jumping right back into this, boy, I saw Seattle. I didn't think, Tom, they looked good at all. Now, I will say this. They didn't have Julio Rodriguez playing earlier this week against Miami. And it feels like when they don't have him, they just don't hit at all. So are the Rangers one of those teams, Tom, that will, hang around and maybe get in the playoffs here? I also saw Texas up close and personal, too. I was not all that impressed. And again, they were not with Seager, but they're never with Seager, it doesn't feel like. And he's their best player. So I don't know, if DeGrom is okay. Boy, it feels like just I don't know who's going to win that West. Let's put it this way. The A's had a great shot. They're done. We know it's not the Angels. But somebody has to win the division here.
Right. I would say that I believe the Rangers do make the playoffs, and whether it's via the division or a wild card, I think that they are good enough. And it's really just that they're going to be good enough. And the rest of the AL is just going to be a few steps behind because the AL really isn't that good this year. So I'm not saying that they're, leaps and bounds steps ahead of the other teams that are going to be competing for a wild card. It's just that those teams are also just so mediocre. I think that the Rangers are good enough to make it. So, I think they make it. They could win the division. I'm not sold on either right now, but I think they'll be in.
Tough one for me also here on the White Sox because, of course, they've been one of baseball's big overachieving teams, and they get Murakami back now, and Montgomery's had a great year, and so has Vargas. But it feels to me like, Tom, they're a little bit ahead of schedule, and when that happens, teams do usually not get all that aggressive at the trade deadline, and I think without the White Sox doing that, it's a little perilous to me. I think if and again, I don't blame them if they don't want to make any moves here, but if they don't, I may like the plus money here, honestly. I don't know how this is sustainable for the whole year.
So, this is what I keep thinking about when it comes to the White Sox, getting Murakami back. Is that enough? Is that really going to solve the problems? Is that going to push them over the edge? Would they be 5-10 games better if Murakami had been healthy the whole season? Would they be firmly in control of the AL Central? I don't know. And, this is... to your point, when they're ahead of schedule, it's if they don't make any moves and they completely stand pat, they don't trade anyone away, they don't bring anyone in, it's you have a good hand in pocket. You might as well not mess that up.
Right.
Figure out a few extra things in the offseason. Obviously, with the CBA, we keep mentioning, can you add a player one here, get a sign, bring someone up, next spring training. That's when you'll be really ready to compete. So if they don't make any moves and they don't make it, I still think this is a good season for them.
Agreed. All right. Next couple, I think, are pretty cut and dry for me. I just have not seen the Blue Jays play well, and I'm just not going to buy them. Hey, a lot of times they say it's like that hangover from getting to the World Series. The loser usually doesn't do well, like the Super Bowl loser as well. It's played out here, Tom. The Blue Jays have not looked good all season. They have never had a run. They have never been strong. There's nothing to bet here, but it's not like I would not take the plus money here. It would be a pass for me.
No, they're not going to make the playoffs. The pitching hasn't been good enough. Scherzer, Bieber hasn't been there. Savage started off the season slow or not on time. Vladdy hasn't been there. Kirk missed time. Varsho missed time. There's just too many things wrong at this point. Agreed. Even though the AL is weak, they just can't do it.
Cubs are minus 300 to make the playoffs unless you believe in a collapse, which did happen, by the way, a couple of years ago. I do not. I think the Cubs are in it to win it. I don't know how far they're going to go, but I'm not willing to take either of these sides.
Right. The NL wildcard is super tight, but I believe that they're the better of some of those teams, and they will be aggressive. Right or wrong, I don't think they'll go deep either, but I do think they will make it. It's that simple. This
is an interesting one for me. Is it time for us to pivot and maybe take the Cardinals here? I actually want to do Sam, show me Arizona next because I want to do that. But the Cardinals are plus 225 to make the playoffs here. I guess the assumption is shoe's going to drop. But it's the second we do, they roll off a win streak like they are here at the end of the break.
Yeah, I think both you and I, hand up, we were both kind of wrong about the Cardinals, and we were both still low on them or have been low. However you want to phrase it, they've had a great season. I'll say that I was wrong about them. I expected them to finish either 4th or 5th in the NL Central. That's just where it was. And this just may be a time for me to make amends. Bet on the Cardinals to make the playoffs, and if they continue to do so, credit to them. I can win a bet. And if they don't, they still had a good season and overperformed. If they're in it at the end and they don't end up making it, I still think it was a solid season for them. They did overperform.
Sure. Of course, I'm rooting for Miami, but if Miami, for some reason, doesn't get it, I kind of like this one, Tom, because I know how the Diamondbacks act every trade deadline, and they usually add stuff. And remember a couple of years ago, they were in this exact same spot, and they just rolled off 1 million wins at the end of the year. They get in the playoffs, and they end up going to the World Series. Look, you made a good point about the pitching and Zach Gallen, and look, they definitely have some issues here. But if they get aggressive, like they usually do, I think they're better than San Diego. What do you think? Plus 350 here.
Yeah, they're better than San Diego. Where they sit in the NL wildcard right now means they would have to leap the Pirates and the Cardinals. That's kind of plausible. Both things are mutually exclusive. I think the Diamondbacks can make the playoffs, and the Cardinals, the odds are good enough as well. But it's an interesting spot for the D-backs.
Definitely so. We'll take a break and be back with more here on Pro Baseball Today. Trade deadline will be talked about a lot after the All-Star break, without a doubt. Craig and Tom back with you here on Pro Baseball Today. Let's go through some potential names and ask if they'll be playoff contenders or trade-off contenders. We'll see. Let's start off with the Mets. Freddie Peralta, boy, it would be nice if David Stearns could take a look at Freddie Peralta and say we could rebuild off a trade like this. But Tom, I mean, he has not been good at all, at all this season. I don't know what there is to say. And with the money that he's making, I know he's going to get traded, Tom, and I know some team's going to take a shot here, but the Mets are not going to get anything back. It's sad to say, but what is Freddie Peralta at this point? I mean, an ERA pushing 5 on the year?
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about Peralta coming into the season just based on the fact that, yes, it's a great pitcher's park at Citi Field for the Mets, but it's also a step up in competition for him compared to pitching in the NL Central, which had been pretty weak over the past few years when he was with Milwaukee. He should be traded, to your point, but what they get in return, not going to be all that much. Can they get back some mid-level prospect in AA that the Mets could have in 2 years? Sure, but probably not much more than that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Now, on the other hand, if the Angels decide to trade Reed Detmers, I don't know, what they're going to do. I mean, it seems like they have a different direction now, so maybe they keep him, but he's got 123 strikeouts in 108 innings, and certainly this is a player I would prefer over Peralta. I think he can help a postseason team. But going to be a lot to ask for. And the question is, with John Mozeliak now sort of running things, I know they're headed toward a rebuild, Tom. I know that. I just don't know who they're going to move.
I would push back on say headed towards a rebuild. They've been in a rebuild for years, and not trading Detmers would be malpractice. Why are you not trading a player away that can get you assets in return? And I know you still want to have major league level talent on the roster, but Detmers is something, to your point, that any team would want that's pushing towards the postseason. So they've been in a rebuild. They'll be in a rebuild for many more years. You might as well trade him away because I don't see them paying him top dollar.
So the Red Sox have a couple of players that, when Sam, our producer, is putting the show together, starting probably early in the week, he's like, yeah, I mean, let's do this. And now all of a sudden, Boston may not trade anybody. Who knows? But Aroldis Chapman a week ago was one of the hottest names that would have been out there for a potential trade because he's been amazing. And Wilson Contreras has had an all-star season for the Red Sox too. But at this stage of the game, Tom, at the very least, I think the Red Sox could be holders as opposed to traders. And if they're going to even go for it, you're going to keep the guys that you have, I would think. And so I guess I would say I'm 50-50 on both of these players. I have to wait till August. I got nothing.
It has to be. We touched on Sonny Gray earlier because he's been great. Chapman, Contreras, those are 3 players. I will say the next 2 weeks are going to be really telling because the recent win streak that the Red Sox have been on, it could be a little bit smoke and mirrors. You beat the White Sox, who have been kind of floundering. You beat the Mets. Congrats. The next 2 weeks leading up to the beginning of August, that's going to be truly telling about what the Red Sox do post-All-Star break. Because if they regress right back to where they were, you got to get rid of these players. If they can hold things on and they're within a game, I think they'll keep them.
So we have a player here that is always so difficult to project, and his contract always difficult to project, and that's Luis Arias, who the Giants will trade in less than a month from now. There's no question. But this is not an easy fit. You have to fit him into your team, Tom. When they say that he could play on any team, that's like the silliest statement that you could make because while he has played better at defense this season at second base, he's not a prime defender. He doesn't hit home runs. He's got a bat somewhere at the top of your lineup, but yet he's not going to steal any bases. So, yes, he's going to get moved, but is it as simple as saying, oh, they should just get him on the Yankees? Like, you hear that. Like, no. He's not an easy fit for a lot of teams, but I have no doubt, Tom, that he'll be playing in a different uniform in August.
Yeah, he absolutely should be traded away by the Giants, and it's just based on where the Giants are. They should be trading away multiple players, if we're being honest. But to your point, it has to be the right fit for a team. You can't just drop him into any lineup and expect him to, succeed there. Now, I believe he's obviously one of the best hitters in the league, as we've seen it. He just doesn't strike out. He gets on base. But what he does defensively needs to work with the team because he's played a little bit of first base in his career, but he's not going to supersede some other first baseman that has true power that a lineup would never, a team would never take out of the lineup. So it has to be a unique fit.
Yeah, credit to Ron Washington. He's made him a good defender again at second. But to your point, there's going to be teams with better second basemen and first basemen, too. So I don't know. It'll be an interesting fit. Colorado obviously is going to trade players if they can. Here's a name that's popped up. Mickey Moniak. Wow, the former first overall pick has really found his way in Colorado. I would assume some team will take a shot here, right?
Yeah, a team that needs a left-handed bat and an outfielder. Maybe, I'm not going to say it's going to be the Phillies because they lost Adolis Garcia, but they also need an outfielder, and they need some power in their lineup.
Feels like a Atlanta Braves off the bench member to me. Mickey Moniak sounds like that to me. All right, our prediction market power half hour is up next. We'll talk some home run derby after the break.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
And welcome back to Pro Baseball Today. Let's take a look at some of the prediction market futures for Home Run Derby going into tomorrow night. We actually really didn't have these last year when you think about it, but prediction markets over the last calendar year have become such a big event that let's take a look at the event markets for it. And we'll start off, Tom, well, who will hit the longest Home Run Derby home run? There's a lot of options here. Looking at some of the names and the possibilities. I mean, I don't think Kyle Schwarber is going to win the Derby. But I would think that this is a great spot for him here. He knows the park. He's got to be familiar with the way that he's hitting. And that would be my choice here to invest in. How about you?
The only other player that I would look to would be Caminero, a player I think you and I are both high on to actually win the event. If you look on Baseball Savant, you could look to which players have the most no-doubters, which are home runs that are classified, which would be home runs in all 30 parks. And Caminero's tied for the league lead with Yordan Alvarez. So Schwarber's not far behind with 15 of his own, but players that have true power that are hitting it, not just sneaking home runs over the fence, Caminero would be my pick.
All right, longest home run distance. What do you think here, Tom, for this one?
That's a great one. Pushing 500 is a big ask if we're going to get 500 plus feet. I think the 495 gives you enough wiggle room where it's like, oh, we just fell short of 500, but 490, 495, I think that's where you should be looking. Obviously, those are some of the favorites. I would go a step above 485, but 490, 495, I think is kind of that sweet spot.
All right. Also on Kalshi, we can try and pick the finalists here. And I like Caminero, but I think that what I would like to do is pair him with Jordan Walker of the St. Louis Cardinals and take a shot here. That would be my little combo here. Who do you like?
Okay, that's I certainly like that. It's an interesting because there's obviously every permutation of these. You want to be taking the favorite, which would be Schwarber, at least in terms of the betting odds. The player that I like to win it would be Caminero, and I think that does set up not only well in terms of how they get there, because there's no more bracket. We have to understand that as well, but it's also just based on where the market is trading right now. So Schwarber and Caminero, the yes trading at 10 cents. I think that's a fine spot to look.
All right, so now let's take a look at the All-Star Game winner. Now, naturally, what people do is they just gravitate to the better league, which is the NL this season. There's no question about that. But the Miz is out, and Ohtani is out, and the NL is just taking some big losses here. I think what I would like to do, Tom, is just simply take the league that you have the best possibility of winning in, whether it's plus or minus. So in this case, it's the prediction markets, and I guess I would just take the AL.
Yeah, the NL at face value, if everyone were to be fully healthy with Ohtani and the Miz and Skeens and Chris Sanchez, like those, and Yamamoto, who announced he's not going to pitch as well. If you could have Sanchez, Miz, Skeens, Yamamoto as your first four pitchers, I'm not sure at any point any roster could match that. I still lean NL. I still think that they are the better team overall. I think that there's just something top to bottom about that team and potential lineup that I like. Just ahead of the AL. It's not obviously significant by a significant margin, but I lean NL still at this point.
Okay, over on Kalshi, you can also take a shot at this one. Gosh, this is as hard as anything that I think Sam's doing this to troll me, honestly. I mean, this is impossible. How do you guess this? Rock Chalowski, who was the number 1 overall pick yesterday, you can now try and predict his debut date here, Tom. You know what? First time in the show. We are an hour and 40 minutes in. I am just simply going to defer to you on this. This is one that I would look at on Kalshi and say, no, thank you. I will try and predict something else. And again, I'm in the game, and I can try and weave around some of this stuff. I have no idea on this one. I mean, I got to see this guy. He hasn't even got through low A yet. Right.
So there's a very easy way to put this is, looking at the different markets. One of them, the furthest down would be, which is, trading at 93 cents for the yes before November 1st, 2031, right? 2031 is 5 years away. So here's the simple answer. If he does not debut before 2031, half a decade away, everyone was wrong about him. The White Sox were wrong. He didn't deserve to be the number 1 pick. And obviously, I'm taking this to the extreme because if that means that the scouting is wrong, everything's wrong about him. If he's not good enough to make an MLB debut when he's already 21, if he can't make an MLB debut half a decade from now, the White Sox were wrong about that pick and they just whiffed. And it's just that simple.
So Kalshi is telling us that I have a better chance at doing World Cup shows for us again than this guy making his major league debut. I mean, that just tells you something how far we are from that. Okay. This one I can weigh in on a little bit better. Okay, a 106-mile-an-hour pitch on Kalshi trying to predict if this is going to happen. I mean, there's one player right now that's already close, Tom. So, I mean, what am I missing here? I mean, if the Miz is healthy, he's going to do it. And if he's not, I guess, is the idea that nobody would do it? Do you feel that? Because is there anyone really close here? Is there anyone throwing 103, 104 other than the Miz right now? Is Mason Miller at that level?
No, it would have to be Miz. In the past, you would say Chapman, but I think his age is too much of a factor at this point. You're basically betting on whether or not a pitcher, just the Miz, essentially one, can do this. And where it's trading right now, the yes is at 97 cents. So you're just hoping that this current setback that he has, arm fatigue, won't impact him any further. I mean, you could look into deep underlying baseball savant metrics to see if there's a pitcher that's touched 102 or 101 that can push to 106, but a 101 to 106 jump is massive. It's not like going from 90 to 95. As you go up, the expected outcome is shortened on the bell curve of going that high.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is it's a little more complicated. You brought up a good point, Tom, with this latest, slowdown with Mizorowski. If we're led to believe... Now, based on what I'm seeing, if we're led to believe that this is nothing, and I'm going to bank on that because I'm seeing it around the league a little bit, then I'm thinking that Mizorowski's going to hit this season. I am. I'm thinking that that's going to happen. Now, if you want to play the other side and you want to panic a little bit, then I think that you could play the opposite and win on Kalshi, because if something was serious with the Miz, you wouldn't see him for a while. So I guess we'll end up seeing. Let's get to some just quick reporting here on this Sunday morning here. Seattle, let's talk about them here, Tom. We know that they can pitch. We know that they have all of these starters, and they have a plethora of them. One of them could be on the trade block, Luis Castillo. Now, the thing that I would ask you, Tom, is do you think that somebody would be willing to take him on, and the Mariners could get some back-end help with the bullpen or get some offensive help? Because this Castillo of 2026 doesn't look anything like the Castillo of 22 and 23 and 24. Like, what do you think Seattle can even accomplish with this?
Could you get a mid-level leverage arm? Sure. Could you get another hitter? Sure. But I would say that he'd be going to a non-contending team, because he has been terrible this season. And I know he's been unhappy with the piggybacking situation that the Mariners deployed earlier in the year, but I just do not see this as a good end for. They can't keep him. He's not good enough to pitch, deep into the postseason, and I don't think any contending team possibly wants him.
And USA Today also reports on Sunday morning that Tarek Skubal wants to stay in Detroit the rest of the season. That's what he's been telling his friends. But I don't know if he's told their GM Scott Harris this, because he's the one that's going to have to make this decision. And this goes, by the way, Tom, this one goes above Harris. This goes to the owner. Like this is not one of those trades that gets made without some serious veto power involved here. But look, the Tigers internally are not going to want to do this. It is the right thing to do, though. They're not winning anything this season. I don't think they're good.
Yeah, this is a really tough decision. Now we're getting reports as of now this morning that Skubal wants to stay in Detroit through the end of the season. The team may want him to stay, but ultimately it's just not the right decision when you can be getting assets back for him that will help you presumably next year or the year after. And again, which is in a really wide open AL Central. Every single year it's wide open, so you might as well get something back for him while you can.
Yeah, and with the CBA being so murky, I mean, legitimately, there is a shot that Skubal could go back to Detroit if there is a floor and a cap and all that stuff. But you can't take that shot now. You got to do what's best for the future. All right, coming up next, we'll continue looking at the prediction market landscape on Pro Baseball Today. So make sure you stay with us. Welcome back to Pro Baseball Today here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with Tom Vecchio as we continue our prediction markets look as we get ready to wrap up Pro Baseball Today. Tom, let's take a look at the American League Central, where Cleveland seems to be in a pretty good spot. We've heard the Twins say we don't know really what we're going to do. They've got Buxton on the injured list. He's been so awesome this season. I hate to even say, see people say that, oh, Buxton's hurt all the time, because he has not been hurt this season. He has been great, MVP candidate, but unfortunately he is out now. Detroit, of course, they're in the mix, I guess, somewhat. I don't believe Kansas City is. Is it simply just not an investable number here with Cleveland or anyone else? I mean, or the White Sox, I guess you could put them. I just think Cleveland's better than the White Sox, Tom. I mean, for me, that's the way that I view it.
Yeah, like we said when we talked about the teams to make the playoffs or miss the playoffs, we said that Cleveland was plus 100 to win the division, which I certainly don't mind. Here's the answer. If the Skubal news that we just talked about in the previous segment about him staying in Detroit to the end of the season, if I knew that were to be a fact and he was guaranteed to stay there until the end of the season, I would look to Detroit, because I don't think the White Sox, what they're doing is sustainable. I don't think the Twins are good at all to begin with, and I think it could come down to Detroit and Cleveland again, and that's where I'd be looking to invest in.
All right, so a disaster division, the American League West.
Yes.
Try and figure this one out. I got no clue here. I know that if you were on Kalshi, I would not recommend any investment on the Angels, and I definitely would not on the A's. The A's have now fallen apart, and with Kurtz on the injured list, you're probably out of your mind. So this is an absolute coin flip for me. I'm a little bit with you, Tom. I kind of feel like Texas is the play here. I sort of think so. And I do think Texas is one of those teams that is kind of smart and could get aggressive. Tom, it's interesting. We've counted on Seattle the last few years to sort of get their team a lot better at the trade deadline. I know they got Randy Arozarena and they added some players too. I kind of feel like Texas may take a shot at this thing, look and say, hey, like we really can do this. Seattle, oh, by the way, Seattle's not good, man. Like they have really good pitching, but overall they're not a good team.
I would agree with that. Seattle, like they got Randy Arozarena, like you said, they got Josh Naylor, and those are good moves, but are those moves that Texas could do something similar and then therefore be just as good or better? And Seattle's, I don't want to say reaching a breaking point, but they've done the same thing every single year and have never gotten over the hump. And like that is very draining and very taxing on a team and an organization overall. Texas has had success. Like they didn't make the play. They won a World Series. Like people are forgetting that. Like they won a World Series in the very recent history. So make one or two moves and the division could be yours. I'm not saying it's like they're going to blow away the other teams, but they're within a move or two of like really having a firm grasp on the AL West, which is wide open.
American League East. This is right now appearingly like a two-team race. Baltimore thinks that they're hanging around. Maybe for the wild card. I think Baltimore could put themselves back in it. What a strange season it is for them. So here is my concern, I would say, for the Yankees, is that the Rays right now, Tom, are this good without having done anything to help this team. Like I think the Rays, I don't know that they're going all in, but I think the Rays are going to get better. Tom, I think the Rays are going to win this division. I do think the Yankees are going to make it. I think it's going to come down to the end. But I just really like Tampa Bay squad, man. Like I really feel like a couple of nice small pieces puts this team over the top.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that, where the Rays have the division lead. If they're willing to make moves, they can improve the lineup that much more, and they will be in a spot to win the division. I think it's a solid, worthwhile investment at this point. So it's really pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, let's take a look at the National League East, where it is the Braves, the Phillies, and yes, the Marlins are right in the thick of this thing. Certainly the Braves had this, what felt like, Tom, this insurmountable lead, but for the umpteenth year, what is in the water in Atlanta? They just have injuries after injuries after injuries. Their pitching staff just continues to go down. Austin Riley, what are they going to do with him? I don't even know. Like, he's like, oh gosh, I hate to say it, Tom. Is he like a playable player at this point? Do they need to upgrade a little bit more on the offense? They're doing this without Ronald Acuna Jr., but you talk about teams at the deadline, Tom, that are aggressive. Atlanta is number one with that. So I do expect them to get better. I could see all three teams making the postseason, but I still do lean Atlanta toward the division.
I do as well. And, we got to remember with the prediction market, you can get in and get out, when it makes sense for you, when the position changes or whatever it is. Frankly, Craig, I think the answer is Miami, because if you are investing in them now, you don't need them to win the division. Right. You just need Atlanta and Philly just to falter a little bit. Miami to continue to win games as they have been over the past 6-8 weeks at a great clip. You just need that to improve. You just have to go from 6 to 10 to 12%, and just to see the other teams falter. Even if they end up winning, it doesn't matter because you can get out on your position. So from this spot, I would say the Marlins might be the most interesting spot to invest in.
Oh, love that. Love to hear that, Tom. I'll take that to the game today. All right, new collective bargaining agreement here. This is the way that we end every show. At least we don't do Trout to Philly at the end of the show. That's changed, at least for 1 week here. So the new collective bargaining agreement, Tom, December, I know, is the landmark sort of date that we're looking at here. None of us really feel that that's a possibility, but I'm optimistic we get a full season of baseball. So I'm one of those on the half full February list here. I'm not on the December list, though. I don't think so.
Yeah, I've said this from the beginning of the year. This December deadline's irrelevant to me. It really is. It's not about December. It's not about December 31st. It's a matter of, are we on February 1st, March 1st? Are we having pitchers and catchers on March 10th, whatever it is, in spring training sites? Is that when they're going to happen? Because March 1st is what matters. Can they get a spring training in? Can we start playing games on April 1st for a real 162 season? That's the only thing that matters. So December 2nd, no, I don't think there'll be a new CBA by December 2nd. I think it'll happen by March 1st. We get a normal spring training and we can roll right into the season, because there's been too much positive momentum from the league overall with the international success that they've had, with Ohtani bringing fans, with the World Series that we had last year, which was absolutely unbelievable, and the World Baseball Classic. There's too much momentum for the sport of baseball for it to fail and not have 162 and not be ready March 1st of 2027. December 2nd, who cares? March.
Agreed. Very well said by Tom. And Tom is kind enough to close the show out for me today, but I'll be back with you tomorrow as we get ready for Home Run Derby on Monday night. I'll be sitting in with Joe Ranieri for that programming, our alternate programming. So those of you who are watching over on Netflix, you can watch us very easily by streaming. And then I'll be in on Tuesday night with Joe as we take a look at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, all the odds and everything else. So stay with us, more pro baseball today. Coming up next, right here on SportsGrid. So stay with us here on the grid on this Sunday, as we'll be back after these quick messages. Don't go away.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one to elevate you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, come on. After every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal, he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like we said, he's driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
What's going on? Welcome back to Pro Baseball. Today, my name is Tom Vecchio. Craig is done. I will be closing things out. We were just talking over the past few segments about some news and reporting that's been coming out as we've been doing the show. Let's hop back into a few more of that, which has come out per Bob Nightingale, that one, Ketel Marte is expected to veto all trades. You know, we heard some rumors in the offseason that he could be traded. He loves it there in Arizona. He doesn't want to leave. Seems as simple as that. Josh Hader isn't available in trade talks. That's seemingly straightforward. The Astros are in the mix. They're going to continue to push for the postseason. The Reds certainly struggling right now when it comes to the standings. They're receiving plenty of interest around Spencer Steer. Again, a team bound for the postseason would like to add a player like that with that type of bat to their lineup. Makes pretty easy sense for the Reds to be looking to trade him. Lourdes Gurriel among the Phillies' possible trade targets. They lost Adolis Garcia earlier in the year. He's done for the year with the oblique injury, I believe it was, oblique or shoulder. But they need another outfielder. They need another bat, someone that doesn't have to necessarily play every day, but that could be a viable option for them. The Royals are not planning on trading Mike Waka, but will still listen to offers. They probably should be trading him when it's all said and done. If you can get something back for a veteran pitcher, I think that's what they should be doing. Again, Waka is never going to be a number one or number two for a team bound for the postseason, but some back-end depth or coming out of the bullpen during the postseason, giving you 3 innings is something that he could do and a team would certainly like. Next, the Brewers, they're still searching for starting pitching. They've been dealing with some injuries. We know that. They also need some left side of the infield help when it comes to their offense. Again, I've talked about it before with the Brewers. The top portion of their lineup is great, but they're certainly lacking when it comes to the bottom portion of the lineup, shoring that up, and that would be third base and left side, third base and shortstop on the left side that needs to shore up a little bit. And then finally, the Rays plan to be aggressive buyers at the deadline. Again, the Rays are in control of the AL East right now. The Rays are a team that really haven't done things with big swings when it comes to players. They traded away Snell. They traded away Glass now. They're not spending a ton of money. So to see them be aggressive buyers at the deadline is very, very interesting. We have to see this play out. There was a report that they were potentially targeting Skubal. Obviously, that maybe changed if Skubal is telling his friends that he wants to stay in Detroit. Obviously, if the Tigers decide to trade him, that is yet to be seen. During the MLB draft that we saw yesterday, we have LeBron heading to Cleveland. No, not LeBron James heading back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but it is Justin LeBron from Alabama being picked 18th overall by the Reds. Obviously, always a little bit of fun there that different leagues and different organizations can say that LeBron is heading to a certain spot. Next up, we know that Wilson Contreras, that is in the home run derby, and he's going to be using a Bowser-themed bat from Mario Bowser-themed bat. I think this is a great idea. We know that throughout the season, MLB has players that have Players Weekend or Players-inspired cleats for different charities. They have nicknames on the back of the jerseys. I think this is great. Anything to bring out the creativity, bring out the personality of these players, especially in an event such as the All-Star Game or Home Run Derby. They should be doing this with cleats, with bats, with jerseys, with anything. You want to do it for charity, you want to auction them off. I think all of these things are great ideas. You want to have some fun with it and go with a Bowser-themed bat. I think that is a great idea. Again, I think this can just be the beginning for what they are trying to do. And then with 2 closers being so good this year. Now the question becomes, if you're in a 1-run game in the 9th, who are you choosing to lock things down for the save? Aroldis Chapman or Mason Miller? They have both been fantastic. We could certainly say that, Chapman has plenty of, career success compared to Mason Miller just because he's been around. But what Mason Miller has done this season, I think, is unbelievable. I think he could have been pushing towards, I'm not going to say the saves record, just because we know that's almost unattainable at this point. But if the Padres were just a little bit better, and as I will continue to say, if their offense was better, he would be in more spots to save games, and he would be one of, if not the best closers of all time. And he really is, but I'm talking about from the volume of saves, just because he's missing out on chances. That's what it comes down to. So you give me one of the options, I'll take Mason Miller, 23 saves this year, 0.96 ERA. Is absolutely unbelievable. And then finally, Juan Soto finally has his own card. Only one card, a Minions card for Juan Soto from SNY Mets and via Topps. Listen, Soto's been great. The Minions are a massive franchise. So to see this crossover is always fun. And again, baseball needs to embrace these things of pop culture crossing over, something that the fans want to see, whatever it might be. This intersection of pro sports and good pop culture things, I think, should always continue to happen for the baseball, for the players. It's good for the fans. It's good to bring them out a little bit more on the center stage. That does it for pro baseball today. Myself, Craig Mish, we ran through everything. We hit the All-Star break. We did the Home Run Derby. We'll be back next week as we restart baseball for the push before the trade deadline and then into the postseason. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid for everything else you need.